Michael Knowles wants to give some historical context for the mass deportations that Donald Trump is trying to execute. He's been reportedly unhappy with the tally so far. He said that he wants 1,200 to 1,500 deportations a day. That's the directive that's been sent to ICE. And he wants it in a way that is good PR for him and his far-right buddies. He wants the deportations to be on military planes and to handcuff these people who are immigrants, because what's important for this far-right anti-immigration project is to completely eliminate and blur the lines in between criminality and somebody just seeking a better life by trying to immigrate to a different country.
You can't hit his numbers for thousands a day without going after people who aren't violent criminals.
There is like almost no pretense on that front. The deportation of criminals was the Obama administration era policy, and that's not what this is going to be. And so anyway, Michael Knowles and the rest of the right, they're really enjoying all the cruelty that they're seeing. And here is his explanation for why this is actually a very patriotic move.
You might argue that mass migration or mass deportation rather, is wrong. That's what Democrats are arguing. And there are even some libertarians and right wingers who argue that mass deportations are wrong. Mm-hmm. The one thing you can't argue is that mass deportation is un-American. I don't know if you guys are history buffs or not. Have you ever heard of the Trail of Tears? I know a lot of people don't defend the Trail of Tears. But that was a mass deportation. That was in, 1830? Have you ever heard of Operation Wetback, when we actually deported a ton of Mexicans, like 100,000 or more Mexicans?
Too bad.
You might not defend Operation Wetback, in part because of the name, because it's an offensive word. 1954. That was a mass deportation. How about the Palmer raids of all the communists, 1919, 1920?
Yeah, horrible.
Deported, because a lot of the communists were foreigners who were in America, deported lots and lots of communists,
Commoners.
How about the Japanese? We always talk about Japanese internment during World War II. You know, we also deported a lot of Japanese. Again, you might say, well, that was all really terrible. Okay, but it's American, though. We sure did it. I'm noticing a trend here, huh? How about the Haitians and the Cubans that we deported after the Mariel boat lift in 1980? That was a mass deportation. You say, well, that's wrong. It's anti-American. Again, I know maybe you don't like it.
Okay.
Maybe you can make an argument that...
Maybe you can... So he's not making a value judgment. He's just not. He's just saying, hey, you could say it's wrong, but you can't say it's anti-American. And if you say it's wrong, are you anti-American? Because he's exactly right. Those policies were implemented by this country, the Trail of Tears.
A settler colonial state.
Japanese internment. These were wrong, horrible things that we did. But he doesn't really want you to make a value judgment on that, because if you do, you're against America. And I'm reminded
I can make a value judgment. He doesn't want to make his own, apparently, which is kind of pussy.
But I mean, he is by not saying it, by saying that one side says it's wrong and then the other side loves America. That's the distinction that he's drawing. But I'm reminded of what we just talked about with Hanno, with Elon Musk speaking to the German AfD party, selling this idea that you can absolve yourself and not have to worry about the shame of like past atrocities that your nation has committed. And you can just renew your patriotism by finding new groups to demonize.
You know what's also American is celebrating Custer getting whacked in the West, as some Americans did, thinking he had it coming. King Philip, one of the leaders, a name that we gave a Native American leader, later attacked, had fans among Americans. Like, that's also a countervailing force in America. But that's the thing is, like, fine, you can say these are American things. I think that's rather important, actually, to say that, because I think we do get focused too much on the Nazi and, you know, Hitler, and that's basically transferring this across the Atlantic. We have a huge problem here in America that isn't Nazi related. It is America, settler colonial, white supremacist related. And yeah, all those things, I have no problem saying, both American and bad.
Yes.
If you want to say the Trail of Tears was good, just say it with your chest. That's what bothers me. Like, It's one thing to say it between the lines. Say it with your chest, you pussies.
Right. He and the reality is that the Trail of Tears, we just saw a version of the Trail of Tears just starting in October 2023 in Gaza. That was an ethnic cleansing campaign in the same way that our the Trail of Tears and our treatment of the indigenous Americans here was ethnic cleansing. So he's trying to essentially say, without saying, that these things were good and necessary for the construction of America, which is a counterfactual, but it's a very easy way to absolve yourself of bringing history into our current context.
That was a mass deportation. You say, well, that's wrong. It's anti-American. Again, I know maybe you don't like it. Maybe you can make an argument that some of these things were unjust. But the one thing you can't say is that it's un-American.
No one's arguing
or anti-American.
That.
Mass deportation is as American as apple pie. Okay, we've been doing it for a very, very long time.
So is birthright citizenship.
And frankly, if you want to argue that these things...
Great point. Birthright citizenship. Yeah, it's been in place, the 14th Amendment, since right after the Civil War. That's pretty American. That's a long time.
You know what's not super American that hasn't been around for this long, but mainly around like people's lifetimes, is this insane boondoggle of government spending for security at the border that doesn't actually accomplish what it says it does, because it's impossible to close that border entirely.
You know what's older than ICE is birthright citizenship. Which one's more American?
Exactly.
Is there compounding interest on Americanism for birthright citizenship? Or how about hating the Confederacy? Because that preceded ICE. How about hating Nazis? Did Michael Knowles do a segment? Because like the United States fought the Nazis in World War II. That's one thing about Americanism that I'm okay with being proud of and owning. We're supposed to hate Nazis in this country. What does he have to say about Elon? Is that American, or is it just the targeting of indigenous people or Japanese people or other minorities? Is that what's American to Knowles?
Tim Holquin in the chat. So is slavery. Yeah. And guess what? We fought a war and put that away. At least chattel slavery. There's still some, bonded labor. But yeah. And also the thing about American Pie is like when things are like American Pie, also good.
Yeah. Right.
They're not really controversial. The things that are controversial, I don't know if as an American, I am comfortable. And somebody who's like, unlike Daily Wire folks taking money probably from foreign billionaires, I'll probably say, or billionaires not born in this country. I'm an American. I think those things that like birthright citizenship and our fight against slavery and the way that Americans joined up to not only fight fascism in World War II, but also fight Franco and the Catholic fascism of Spain prior to that. That stuff that's the American shit I like.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say what it is I like. Unlike Michael Knowles and everybody who watches Michael Knowles things, I'll say what I like and what I don't like about this. I'm not just going to say, well, it's American. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I pair my apple pie with anti-Confederacy. He pairs it with, ethnic cleansing, I guess.
Mass deportation is as American as apple pie. Okay, we've been doing it for a very, very long time. And frankly, if you want to argue that these things were deeply un-American, I would encourage you to look into the details of them, to put yourself in the historical positions of the people making decisions at that time. And I wonder if you wouldn't make the same decision.
No, we know you would. We know you would.
Don't seriously
we know you would. We know you would make that same decision. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I don't want to have to, I love when they drop the pretense, because all of these freaks, Michael Knowles is a true believer, and these other Daily Wire, I would imagine that Matt Walsh would make the same case, and probably does behind closed doors, which is that they're tired of the judgment by people on past very intelligent white men who had to make the tough decisions about which minority groups to persecute and slaughter or whatever. And if they were in the same position, they know that they would have made that choice, because they have just modernized their reactionary racism for the current political moment. Whereas the left tries to learn from our past from our past like horrific treatment of people, the right tries to return to those same conditions. So like that's the thing about the Holocaust in particular, too, when it's deployed in this country by conservatives. If you guys were in existence when the Holocaust was happening, if you were alive then, you would have been on the side of people telling the American government to turn away the boats of Jews who were fleeing the Holocaust, because you would say that it would change the culture of America, and that of course Germany doesn't want these people, in the same way that they talk about immigrants from the global south, and of course like from places where we've displaced so many people, like in Afghanistan and because of our war there, or with the genocide that we support in Palestine. That's when they make that same argument. And so it's almost revealing here that he doesn't go with the Holocaust because that's a bridge too far, too, and it might piss off his boss at the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro. But that they basically place themselves in those positions of power, in those decision-making processes, and they know which side they would have been on intrinsically. Yeah,
Trail of Tears, Palmer Raids, Japanese internment, all a no, actually. Michael, I would not do any of those. Thanks for asking.
Yep. And you would, which is why you shouldn't be in power, and why it's not just unfortunate, it's going to be devastating that Donald Trump is.
And again, we don't need the history lesson. Just say that you, A, would have supported all that stuff in the past, and B, support it going forward.
Yes. Just, you're right, clarify.
Say it with your chest.
Do we have any more of this? I think we kind of got the gist.
Fruitcake.
Yep. Tom Cotton's beard. Bro, we look back on Japanese internment, slavery, etc. as shameful epochs. What is this idiot's problem? Good God. Proletariat, I'm getting whiplash from watching the far-right extremists acknowledge so many American atrocities, but in a positive way. This is not a step I want the discourse to take. Yep.
You know what is also American? John Brown was also an American, and all of the frankly, we had some of our best intelligentsia back then that said, hey, if you hang John Brown, he's going to do for the gallows what Jesus did for the cross. I think that was either Emerson or Thoreau. That is America I like.
Mm-hmm. Truly flops. It's Michael Knowles' argument, we've been awful in the past, so let's continue to be awful. What a perfect asshole.
Well, he says, is it awful or is it American? That's the
right,
argument.
Which is apparently a contradiction that he's just strawmanned and created.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.